Admiral Vexthor of the Galactic Imperial Fleet stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Glory, his four eyes fixed on the blue planet displayed on the main view screen. Earth. Such an ordinary name for such an ordinary world. The Admiral's upper arms crossed over his chest while his lower arms rested on the command console. Disappointing, he said to no one in particular. Intelligence reports classified this as a developing world with minimal space capabilities. Hardly worth the journey. The bridge crew continued their work in silence. No one questioned the Admiral's words. The Empire had conquered thousands of worlds across dozens of galaxies. Some fell quickly, others fought back, but all eventually became part of the Empire. Earth would be no different. Lieutenant Commander Zarkel approached the Admiral, her skin shifting from its natural purple to a respectful blue. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the scout ship Vigilant. They found something unusual near the asteroid belt." Vexthor turned his head, antenna twitching with interest. "Show me." The view screen changed to display an object floating in space. It was clearly artificial, a metallic sphere with strange markings, about the size of a small shuttle. The scout ship hovered nearby, scanning beams washing over the object. "It appears to be a warning beacon," Zarkel explained. "Quite old, but still functional. It's broadcasting a message in multiple languages, including several we recognize." "And what does this beacon say?" Vexthor asked, his voice betraying mild curiosity. "The message is simple but disturbing," Zarkel replied. "It says, 'Earth is a trap. Approach with caution.'" Vexthor laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the bridge. "A trap? This primitive world? Scan it again and determine its origin." "Already done, Admiral. The beacon's technology doesn't match any known civilization in our database. However, its age is estimated at approximately 300 years. The Admiral waved a dismissive hand. "Likely the remnants of some extinct race that encountered these humans. Place a marker for the archaeologists and continue our approach." "Yes, Admiral," Zarkel said, but hesitated. "Should we perhaps investigate further before?" "Do you question my orders, Lieutenant Commander?" Vexthor's skin darkened to a threatening red. Zarkel immediately bowed. "No, Admiral, I'll instruct the fleet to maintain course." As the Lieutenant Commander retreated, Vexthor returned his gaze to the small blue planet. Something about this unassuming world made him uneasy, though he would never admit it to his crew. He had led conquest missions for over 60 years, but something about this Earth felt different. "Prepare a survey team," he ordered. "I want boots on their moon within the day." Dr. Lily Bennett rubbed her tired eyes and stared at the computer screen. The observatory had been quiet for hours, most of her colleagues having gone home long ago. But Lily couldn't leave. Not after what she'd seen. "You're still here?" Alan Murphy pushed open the door, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Lily. "It's almost midnight. What's so fascinating that you can't go home?" Lily took the coffee gratefully. "Look at these readings from the Deep Space Array. Something's out there, Alan. Something big." Alan leaned over her shoulder, squinting at the screen. "Could be a malfunction. Or space debris." "Space debris doesn't move like this." Lily pointed at the pattern on her screen. "Whatever this is, it's changing course. Deliberately." Alan frowned. "Have you told anyone else?" "I sent the data to NASA headquarters but haven't heard back." Lily took a sip of coffee. "They probably think I'm crazy." The phone on the wall rang suddenly, making them both jump. Alan reached for it. "Hello?" "Yes, she's here." He handed the phone to Lily, his expression serious. "It's for you. Someone from the Pentagon." Lily took the phone, her heart pounding. "This is Dr. Bennett." The voice on the other end was clipped and formal. "Dr. Bennett, this is General Frank Powell. A car is on its way to bring you to Washington. Pack for a few days. Your discovery has been verified by 3 other observatories." "What exactly have I discovered, General?" Lily asked, her throat suddenly dry. There was a pause before Powell answered. "We're not sure yet, but whatever it is, it's big and it's headed our way." 12 hours later, Lily sat in a conference room deep below the Pentagon. The table was filled with military officers, government officials, and a handful of scientists like herself. At the head of the table stood General Powell, a stern-faced man with gray hair and piercing eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," Powell began, "what you're about to hear is classified at the highest level. 24 hours ago, our satellites detected multiple objects approaching Earth from beyond Mars. These objects are moving at speeds that defy our current understanding of physics." He nodded to a technician who dimmed the lights. A projection appeared on the wall, showing what looked like a cluster of stars moving against the backdrop of space. "These aren't stars," Powell continued. "Based on their size and configuration, we believe they are vessels. Spacecraft of unknown origin." The room erupted in murmurs. Lily felt her heart racing. First contact. After centuries of wondering, humanity was about to meet aliens. "Are they responding to our signals?" asked NASA Director Patricia Collins. Powell shook his head. "We've tried all frequencies. No response." "What about their trajectory?" This came from Dr. Sam Winters, a physicist Lily recognized from academic journals. "Where are they headed?" "Their current path will bring them to Earth within 48 hours, Powell replied. "They've already established a presence on the dark side of the moon." The room fell silent. Lily felt a chill run down her spine. "So what do we do?" she finally asked. "Try to communicate? Prepare some kind of welcome?" Powell exchanged glances with a woman Lily hadn't noticed before. She sat in the corner wearing a plain black suit with no identifying insignia. "That's where you come in, Dr. Bennett," Powell said. "You and the other scientists here have been selected because of your expertise. We need to understand their intentions before they arrive." The woman in the black suit stood up. "I'm Colonel Diane Harper," she said. "For the past 60 years, I've been in charge of a program called Operation Watchman. We've been preparing for this moment for generations." "Preparing how?" Dr. Winters asked. Harper walked to the front of the room, her face grim. "The public has never been told the full truth about certain incidents. Roswell, the Phoenix Lights, the Belgian UFO wave. These weren't isolated events. They were reconnaissance." Lily felt her world tilting. "You're saying we've been visited before?" "Many times," Harper confirmed, "and not always peacefully. Which is why we created Project Artemis." "The moon-based program?" Winters looked confused. "That's just getting started." Harper smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "The public Project Artemis is a cover. The real Artemis has been operational since 1997, and it's not just a base, it's our first line of defense." Powell cleared his throat. "We believe these visitors are the advance force of something much larger. And based on what we know, they're not here to make friends." "How can you be so sure?" Lily asked. Harper's eyes met hers. "Because they've been taking our people for decades, testing us, probing our defenses, and now they're coming in force." She pressed a button, and the image changed to show what looked like a massive ship in orbit around the moon. "This photo was taken 6 hours ago by our lunar observatory," Harper said. "That ship is over 5 miles long, and it's not alone." The image zoomed out to reveal dozens of similar ships along with hundreds of smaller vessels. "Ladies and gentlemen," General Powell said quietly, "we are facing an invasion, and we need to decide right now how humanity responds." Lily stared at the image, her mind racing. All her life she had looked to the stars with wonder and hope. Now those same stars had sent something terrible their way, and somehow she was part of humanity's response. She only hoped it wouldn't be too late. The Imperial Survey Team's shuttle touched down on the gray, dusty surface of Earth's moon. Science Officer Quarrel was the first to step out, his environmental suit glimmering in the harsh sunlight. Behind him, 6 other Imperial scientists and soldiers followed, their movements awkward in the low gravity. "Primitive satellite," Quarrel muttered, scanning the barren landscape with his handheld device. "No atmosphere, minimal resources. Why do the humans even bother with it?" Lieutenant Draz, the security officer, pointed toward the horizon. "They have some kind of installation about 20 kilometers from here. Small, barely detectable from orbit." Quarrel nodded. Let's set up the observation post here. We'll study the humans carefully before Admiral Vexthor launches the main invasion. The team quickly assembled their equipment, sensors to monitor Earth's communications, probes to analyze the planet's defenses, and weapons in case of unexpected resistance. Within hours, a small dome-shaped structure stood on the lunar surface, invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems thanks to Imperial cloaking technology. Inside the dome, Quarrel watched video feeds from the thousands of tiny probes they had released into Earth's atmosphere. The screens showed humans going about their daily lives, working in offices, driving vehicles, walking in parks, none of them aware of what was coming. These humans are amusing, Quarrel reported to Admiral Vexthor via secure communication. They fight among themselves over arbitrary borders and resources. They pollute their own world with primitive energy sources. Their technology is centuries behind ours. The Admiral's image flickered on the screen. What about their military capabilities? Laughable, Quarrel replied. Chemical propellants, basic nuclear weapons, limited space presence. They would be no match for even one of our destroyers, let alone the entire fleet. And the warning beacon? Any indication of what trap it might be referring to? Quarrel hesitated. Nothing concrete, Admiral. We've detected unusual energy readings from several locations on the planet, but they're faint and inconsistent, most likely normal variations in their power grid. The warning beacon must be a relic from some extinct race that encountered humans long ago. Very well. Continue your observations. The invasion fleet will arrive in 36 hours. As the Admiral's image disappeared, Quarrel turned to study the screens again. Something about these humans bothered him. Despite their obvious technological inferiority, they had achieved much in a short time. From primitive flight to space travel in less than a century, it suggested a resourcefulness that concerned him. Lieutenant Draz, he called. Have our probes detected any unusual materials or technologies? Draz checked his console. Nothing significant. Although, he paused, frowning at the data. There are several facilities with unusually thick shielding. Our probes can't penetrate them. Military bases, perhaps. Some, yes, but others appear to be scientific research facilities. And there's something else. Draz brought up a map on the main screen. These shielded locations form an unusual pattern across the planet, almost like they're positioned according to some kind of grid. Quarrel stared at the pattern, a feeling of unease growing within him. Keep watching them, and increase our surveillance of their military communications. In a facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Lily Bennett stared at the holographic display showing the moon's far side. They think we can't see them, Colonel Harper said, standing beside her. Their cloaking technology is advanced, but we've been studying it for decades. Dr. Sam Winters pointed to a blinking dot on the display. That's their observation post. Small team, probably gathering intelligence. Let them look, General Powell said grimly. Operation Watchman has kept our real capabilities hidden for precisely this moment. Lily still couldn't believe what she had learned in the past 24 hours. Humanity had been aware of extraterrestrial civilizations since the 1940s. The government, not just America's but a secret coalition of world powers, had been capturing alien technology, reverse engineering it, and preparing for eventual contact. So, the moon base, the Mars missions, our entire space program, she began. All real, Harper confirmed. But what the public sees is only a fraction of what we've built. Project Artemis isn't just on the moon. It's throughout the solar system. But how did you keep this secret for so long? Lily asked. Someone would have talked. Compartmentalization, Powell explained. Very few people know the whole picture, and those who do understand what's at stake. Dr. Winters brought up another display, showing what looked like a massive spacecraft hidden inside a crater. This is the CSS Defender, built using technology from crashed ships we've recovered over the decades. It's just one of several vessels we've constructed. If you have all this, Lily gestured at the advanced technology around them. Why not reveal it? Why let the world think we're so vulnerable? Colonel Harper smiled. Because appearing vulnerable is our greatest advantage, These aliens, the Galactic Imperial Fleet they call themselves, have conquered thousands of worlds. They're arrogant, overconfident. They expect an easy victory. So we let them think they'll get one, Powell added. And then we spring the trap. Lily's mind was racing. The beacon, the warning beacon they found. You put it there. Harper nodded. 300 years ago, our first interstellar ships encountered the Empire. They were small, exploratory vessels, easily overlooked, but they learned enough to know that the Empire would eventually find Earth. So we prepared. The warning was a test, Winters explained. Any peaceful civilization would have respected it, or at least approached with caution and attempted communication. The Empire ignored it completely, which tells us everything we need to know about their intentions, Powell concluded. A young officer entered the room and saluted. General, we've detected a new group of ships entering the solar system, much larger than the advance force. They're right on schedule, Harper said. The main invasion fleet. Powell turned to the others. It's time to activate the full defense grid. Dr. Bennett, your expertise in communications will be vital for coordinating our response. Dr. Winters, I need you to oversee the SHIELD deployment. What about the civilian population? Lily asked. Shouldn't we warn them? And cause global panic? Powell shook his head. No. If our plan works, most civilians will never know how close we came to invasion. If it fails... He didn't finish the sentence. Harper placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. We've been preparing for this day for generations, Dr. Bennett. Now we need your help to ensure humanity survives it. Lily nodded slowly. Just days ago, her biggest concern had been securing funding for her research. Now she was part of humanity's last line of defense against an alien invasion. What do you need me to do? She asked. The Empire monitors electronic communications, Harper explained. But we've developed a quantum entanglement system that they can't detect. We need you to coordinate communications between our hidden bases worldwide. And Dr. Winters? Lily glanced at the physicist. The SHIELD technology is still experimental, Winters admitted. It should protect our major cities from orbital bombardment, but it needs to be calibrated precisely. General Powell looked at each of them. Make no mistake, we're outgunned and outnumbered, but we have surprise on our side. The Empire thinks they're hunting us. They don't realize we've been hunting them for centuries. On the main screen, the dots representing Imperial ships grew larger as they approached Earth. The invasion had begun. Humanity's trap was about to be sprung, and Admiral Vexthor still had no idea what was waiting for him. Admiral Vexthor paced the bridge of the Eternal Glory, his patience wearing thin. The main invasion fleet had arrived, joining his advance force in Earth orbit. Over 300 Imperial warships now surrounded the small blue planet, their weapons primed and ready. Science Officer Quarrol, Vexthor called, his voice echoing across the bridge. Your latest report is concerning. Quarrol stood at attention, trying to hide his unease. Admiral, I merely suggest caution. There are unusual radiation patterns coming from several locations on the planet, and our probes have identified gaps in our intelligence. Gaps? Vexthor's skin darkened with annoyance. Explain. Some areas of the planet are shielded from our scans, and their satellite network seems incomplete, as if some of their space assets are hidden from view. The Admiral waved a dismissive hand. Primitive attempts at security, nothing more. These humans have no unified government, no space fleet, and only basic weapons. This conquest will be remembered as the shortest in Imperial history. He turned to his second-in-command. Order the first wave to begin landing operations. Target their major population centers, New York, Beijing, London, Moscow. Show of force protocol. Yes, Admiral, the officer replied, relaying the commands. Vexthor watched on the view screen as hundreds of Imperial shuttles departed from the larger ships, beginning their descent toward Earth. The humans would surrender quickly once they saw the Empire's power. They always did. Across Earth, people stared at the sky in terror and awe as massive alien ships appeared above major cities. Traffic stopped. Crowds gathered in streets. News, Broadcasts showed the same images worldwide, enormous dark vessels hovering silently over skyscrapers. In New York, office workers pressed against windows to see the mile-wide ship blocking out the sun. In Tokyo, thousands filmed with their phones as smaller craft descended toward the streets. In London, police tried helplessly to control panicking crowds. But deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the mood was different. Colonel Harper watched multiple screens showing the invasion, her face calm. "They're following standard Imperial invasion protocol," she noted. "Just as our intelligence predicted." General Powell nodded. "All defense stations report ready, waiting for your command." Harper looked at Lily, who sat at a communications console. "Dr. Bennett, status of the quantum network?" 100% operational, Lily replied. "All bases are linked and standing by." Harper took a deep breath. "Very well. Commence Operation Trojan Horse." Powell picked up a secure phone. "Defense Grid Alpha, you are authorized to engage. I repeat, you are authorized to engage." The first wave of Imperial shuttles entered Earth's atmosphere, their hulls glowing red-hot during descent. Inside, Imperial troops prepared for landing, checking weapons and readying for the ground assault. Commander Reltak addressed his troops. "Remember your training. These humans are primitive but numerous. Standard intimidation tactics, minimal casualties until their leaders surrender." His words were cut short as the shuttle suddenly lurched to one side. Warning alarms blared. "Status report," Reltak demanded. The pilot's voice was panicked. "Unknown energy signature locking onto us. It's not in our database." Outside, the sky had changed. Across Earth, hidden defense platforms were activating. From mountains, oceans, and deserts, concealed weapon systems emerged, targeting the Imperial shuttles with precise energy beams. Reltak barely had time to register shock before his shuttle exploded, along with dozens of others across the planet. On the bridge of the Eternal Glory, Admiral Vexthor watched in disbelief as nearly half of the first wave vanished from tactical displays. "What is happening?" he roared. "Where did those energy signatures come from?" His officers scrambled for answers. "Admiral, the humans appear to have advanced defense systems we didn't detect. They're using some kind of directed energy weapons." "Impossible." Vexthor slammed his fist on the console. "Their technological level is centuries behind this capability. Science." Officer Quarrel studied the readings, his face paling. "Admiral, these weapons, they're similar to our own technology, but they shouldn't have this. They couldn't have developed it independently." Vexthor turned on him, fury in his eyes. "You assured me they were primitive." "They appeared to be," Quarrel insisted. "All our intelligence indicated your intelligence was wrong." The Admiral turned to his tactical officer. "Launch the second wave, full combat deployment. No more show of force. I want those defense platforms destroyed." In Washington, D.C., the White House Situation Room was filled with government officials watching the battle unfold. The president stood calmly as reports came in from around the world. London reports 60% of enemy craft destroyed. Beijing confirms similar numbers. Our Moscow station is engaging a second wave. The defense secretary looked at the president. "Sir, should we inform the public about Operation Watchman now?" "Not yet," the president replied. "Let's see if the hidden fleet needs to be activated." On a secure screen, Colonel Harper's face appeared. "Mr. President, the Imperial fleet is launching a second wave. Larger numbers, combat configuration. Can the defense grid handle it?" "It was designed to, sir. But this would be the time to deploy our aerospace forces if you want to minimize damage to our cities." The president nodded. "You have authorization, Colonel. Godspeed." Imperial Commander Zevnar led the second wave toward Earth in his heavy assault shuttle. Unlike the first wave, his forces were fully armed and shielded, ready for serious resistance. "Approach pattern Delta," he ordered. "Evasive maneuvers. Target those defense platforms with precision strikes." His shuttle shook as it dodged energy beams from below. The defense grid was formidable, but not impossible to overcome. Several Imperial craft had already broken through, landing troops in New York and Shanghai. We're almost through their defenses, Zevnar told his troops. Prepare for ground assault. A warning alarm cut him off. His tactical officer looked up in shock. Commander, multiple contacts approaching at high speed. They're coming from the moon. Zevnar turned to his viewport just in time to see sleek, angular craft rising from Earth's atmosphere. They looked nothing like the primitive aircraft his intelligence had shown him. These vessels moved with impossible speed and precision, their hulls bearing Earth markings but their design unmistakably advanced. What are those? He whispered. His question was answered when the lead Earth vessel fired, its beam cutting through his shuttle's shields as if they weren't there. Dr. Winters stood in the Lunar Command Center, watching as Captain Jerry Ford led Earth's hidden aerospace fleet into battle. The vessels, a hybrid of human engineering and reversed engineered alien technology, tore through the Imperial second wave. They never expected us to have ships like these, Winters said quietly. That's why it's working. Next to him, Dr. Bennett monitored communications. Ground forces report Imperial troops landing in 12 cities. They're encountering our Special Forces units. On the screens, they could see the Imperial troops facing another shock. Earth soldiers were equipped with exoskeletons and energy weapons that matched Imperial technology. The troops had trained for decades using captured alien equipment, learning Imperial tactics and developing counters. The trap is fully sprung, Winters said. Now we just have to hope it holds. Above Earth, Admiral Vexthor watched his carefully planned invasion falling apart. The warning beacon's message echoed in his mind. Earth is a trap. Too late, he was beginning to understand what it meant. Admiral Vexthor stood rigid at the command center of the Eternal Glory, watching in disbelief as the battle unfolded. Imperial ships, the pride of the galactic fleet, were falling one after another to Earth's unexpected defenses. His 4 hands gripped the railing until his knuckles turned pale blue. How is this possible? He demanded of no one in particular. These humans should be cowering in fear, not fighting back with our own technology. Science Officer Quarrol worked frantically at his station analyzing the human weapons. Admiral, these aren't just similar to our technology. They're designed specifically to counter our systems. Their shields operate on frequencies that penetrate our defenses. Their weapons target our vulnerable points with precision. A coincidence, Vexthor insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. No, Admiral, Quarrel said quietly. This is not coincidence. The humans have studied our technology. They know our weaknesses. They've been preparing for us specifically. On the tactical display, another Imperial cruiser blinked out as Earth's hidden fleet continued their assault. The humans had somehow concealed an entire aerospace force, with vessels emerging from the moon, from underwater bases, and from what appeared to be ordinary mountains that opened to reveal launching bays. Launch all remaining ships, Vexthor ordered. Every fighter, every shuttle, overwhelm them with numbers. His tactical officer hesitated. Admiral, perhaps we should consider retreating to regroup and... Silence. Vexthor's skin flushed deep red with rage. The Empire does not retreat from primitives. Launch everything we have. Above the skies of North America, American fighter pilots Kevin Palmer and Maria Rodriguez led a squadron of advanced aircraft against the Imperial fighters. These weren't the ordinary jets the public knew about. These were hybrid craft built with technology reverse-engineered from crashed Imperial ships collected over decades. Bandit at 3 o'clock, Kevin called through his helmet comm. Watch, those energy signatures, they're switching to pulse weapons. I see it, Maria replied, banking her fighter sharply to avoid an energy burst. She locked onto the Imperial craft and fired. Her weapons, designed specifically to penetrate Imperial shields, sliced through the enemy fighter, sending it spiraling toward the ocean below. Eagle Squadron, form up, Kevin ordered. We've got a destroyer breaking through to Washington airspace. The squadron regrouped and accelerated toward the massive Imperial ship that was pushing through Earth's defenses. The destroyer was firing indiscriminately at the city below, its weapons leaving smoking craters in the National Mall. Activate sunburst missiles, Kevin instructed his squadron. Hit their engine ports simultaneously. Remember your training. These Ships have the same weakness as the one that crashed in Arizona in '79. 12 fighters surrounded the destroyer, each launching missiles toward specific points on the enormous vessel. The Imperial ship tried to evade, but the human pilots had trained for this moment for years. The missiles struck home and the destroyer shuddered as explosions rippled along its hull. "Direct hits," Maria called out. "She's going down. Everyone, clear the area." The pilots pulled away as the destroyer listed to one side and began to fall. Emergency systems kicked in, directing it away from the populated city center and toward the Potomac River, where it crashed with a massive splash. In Moscow, Russian forces deployed electromagnetic pulse weapons that disabled Imperial shields. In Beijing, Chinese military units used sonic disruptors that sent Imperial ground troops into confused retreat. Across Europe, hidden defense installations revealed weapons far beyond what should have been possible for Earth's technological level. Every major nation had played a part in Operation Watchman, each contributing to humanity's secret defense. For 70 years, governments that openly distrusted each other had secretly cooperated, sharing recovered alien technology and developing countermeasures for this very day. In the underground command center, Dr. Bennett monitored global communications, coordinating between defense forces worldwide. "London reports their sector secure," she told Colonel Harper. "Paris has heavy fighting in the north but is holding. Tokyo has driven back all landing forces." Harper nodded. "And our aerospace fleet?" "Captain Ford reports 60% of Imperial fighters destroyed. They're now targeting the command ships." General Powell studied the tactical display. "We're winning the battle, but at great cost. Many of our hidden installations have been revealed now. If the Empire sends reinforcements, they won't get the chance." Harper replied with quiet confidence. "It's time for the final phase. Dr. Winters, status of Project Prometheus?" From his station, Dr. Winters looked up with a smile. "Ready for launch, Colonel." Harper picked up a secure phone. "This is Eagle Actual to Prometheus Control. You are authorized to launch, I repeat. You are authorized to launch." Admiral Vexthor was considering a tactical retreat when his sensor officer called out in alarm. "Admiral, new contacts detected emerging from behind the planet's fourth world. Mars, they call it." "What?" Vexthor rushed to the screen. "Show me." The display shifted to show a fleet of vessels rising from the red planet's surface. They were larger than Earth's other ships, their design clearly meant for deep space travel. "How many?" Vexthor demanded. "At least 30 capital ships, Admiral," the officer replied, his voice shaking. "They appear to be—" "What?" "Speak." "They appear to be Dreadnought class, sir. Equal to our own." "Impossible." The word echoed in Vexthor's mind but died before reaching his lips. The evidence was before him. Somehow these humans had built an entire fleet and hidden it on another planet, waiting for this moment. Science Officer Quarrel approached, his expression grim. "Admiral, I've analyzed that warning beacon again. I believe I misled you earlier." "How?" Vexthor asked, his voice hollow. "The beacon is not ancient at all, it's only about 300 years old. And the material? It's of human origin." "Human. But that would mean—" "They've been in space far longer than we thought," Quarrel confirmed. "The warning wasn't left by some extinct race. The humans left it themselves." The realization struck Vexthor like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just gotten lucky or captured a few pieces of technology. They had known the Empire was coming. They had prepared specifically for this invasion, studying Imperial tactics, weapons, and weaknesses. The entire planet had been one elaborate trap, with humanity only appearing primitive and vulnerable. "All ships," he ordered, his voice barely audible. "Prepare for—" Before he could finish, the bridge rocked violently as something struck the eternal glory. The tactical officer looked up in horror. "Direct hit to our main engines. The human vessels from Mars are targeting our command ships with precision." Through the view screen, Vexthor watched as the newly arrived Earth fleet moved with practiced coordination, targeting the largest Imperial vessels. These weren't the actions of a species encountering superior technology for the first time. These were the tactics of a force that had studied its enemy for centuries. "Send a message to Imperial High Command," Vexthor ordered. "The situation is—" He paused, the words bitter in his mouth. "The situation is untenable." For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vexthor was about to order a retreat. But looking at the destruction of his once mighty fleet, he wondered if it was already too late. Admiral Vexthor sat in his command chair aboard the damaged Eternal Glory, watching as his once mighty invasion fleet scattered. More than half of his ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were attempting to retreat, fighting off the relentless, human forces that pursued them beyond Earth's orbit. "Status report," he demanded, his voice flat and defeated. "Main engines at 20% capacity, shields failing, weapon systems operational but depleted," his tactical officer reported. "We've lost contact with 37% of our remaining vessels." Vexthor nodded slowly. "And the humans?" "Still pursuing, Admiral. Their Mars fleet is cutting off our retreat vectors. They appear to be herding us toward the outer system." A bitter laugh escaped the Admiral's lips. "Herding us, like animals to slaughter." Science Officer Quarrel approached cautiously. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. They're requesting to speak with you directly." "Put it through," Vexthor ordered, straightening in his chair. Even in defeat, he would maintain the dignity expected of an Imperial officer. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a human male in a simple dark uniform. He appeared older, with gray hair and a calm, confident expression. "Admiral Vexthor," the human said. "I am Director Howard Johnson of the Terran Defense Initiative. I trust I'm speaking with the commander of this invasion force." Vexthor's skin darkened slightly in anger. "I am Admiral Vexthor of the Galactic Imperial Fleet. You will explain how your primitive world has access to advanced technology, and how you knew we were coming." The human smiled slightly. "You should have heeded the warning, Admiral. Earth is indeed a trap. One we set specifically for you." "Explain," Vexthor demanded. "Certainly," Johnson replied. "Earth is not as isolated as you believed. We sent our first interstellar colony ships over 300 years ago. Small, stealthy vessels that established human settlements throughout nearby star systems." Vexthor's antenna twitched in surprise. "Impossible. Our surveys would have detected them." "Not if we didn't want to be found," Johnson countered. "These colonies stayed hidden, watching as your empire expanded. They witnessed how you conquered, world after world. They recognized the existential threat you posed to humanity." The Admiral remained silent as Johnson continued. "Rather than fight a losing battle against your vastly superior forces, we devised a different strategy. Earth deliberately maintained the appearance of a primitive world while secretly preparing for your inevitable invasion." "The warning beacon," Vexthor said quietly. "Yes. We placed it to test your intentions. Any peaceful civilization would have respected the warning or approached with diplomatic caution. Your immediate dismissal of it confirmed what our colonies had learned about the Empire." Vexthor felt a chill run through him as he realized the full extent of the deception. This entire planet, everything we saw, a carefully constructed illusion, Johnson confirmed. The primitive aircraft, the seemingly basic satellites, the apparent political divisions, all designed to make you underestimate us. But the technology you've deployed against us, reverse-engineered from Imperial ships we've captured over the centuries. Your empire has lost vessels during explorations, has it not? Not all were destroyed in accidents. Some were captured by our colonies and sent back to Earth for study." On the bridge, Science Officer Quarrel made a small sound of realization. "The missing exploration vessels in the Orion sector, the lost research ships near the Pleiades, we always assumed they were destroyed by natural phenomena. We've been studying you for generations," Johnson continued. "Learning your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. Everything we built was designed specifically to counter your capabilities." Admiral Vexthor's 4 hands clenched into fists. "What happens now? Do you destroy my remaining ships, take prisoners for your research?" "No, Admiral, we're not like you. We don't seek conquest. We only want to protect ourselves and ensure our survival. You have 2 options. Surrender and accept our terms or attempt to retreat, though I should warn you that your hyperdrive systems may not function as expected within our solar system. What terms? Vexthor asked cautiously. Return to your empire. Inform them that Earth and all human colonies are sovereign territory, not to be approached or threatened. A formal treaty will follow through diplomatic channels we'll establish. Vexthor laughed bitterly. You expect the Empire to simply accept this defeat? To leave you in peace? The Imperial Council will send a larger force once they learn what happened here. Johnson's expression remained calm. I doubt that, Admiral. You see, this was only phase 1 of our plan. As if on cue, Vexthor's communications officer called out in alarm. Admiral, we're receiving emergency transmissions from Imperial outposts across 3 sectors. They report simultaneous attacks from unknown forces. Show me, Vexthor ordered, his blood running cold. The display split to show multiple Imperial facilities under attack. The vessels engaging them were similar to those deployed from Mars, but they flew under different banners, the flags of human colony worlds Vexthor had never heard of. While your fleet was focused on Earth, Johnson explained, our colonies activated Phase 2. The human settlements you never discovered are now rising up throughout Imperial territory. This is impossible, Vexthor whispered. The logistics, the coordination required. 300 years of preparation, Admiral. 300 years of hiding, building, and waiting for this moment. In the Lunar Command Center, Dr. Bennett and Dr. Winters watched the exchange on the main screen. Colonel Harper stood nearby, her expression solemn. It worked, Lily said quietly. The whole plan actually worked. Harper nodded. Humanity's greatest deception. We showed them what they expected to see. A primitive world easy for conquest. Meanwhile, our real strength remained hidden. What happens now? Dr. Winters asked. Now we reveal ourselves fully, Harper replied. Our colonies across 12 star systems are simultaneously rising up. The Empire believed they were hunting us. They never realized we've been hunting them. On another screen, they could see Captain Greg Mitchell's Prometheus fleet herding the remaining Imperial ships away from Earth. The sleek vessels, built in secret facilities beneath the Martian surface, represented humanity's true technological level, far beyond the primitive image they had projected to the galaxy. Will there be peace? Lily asked. Eventually, Harper said. The Empire doesn't respond well to defeat, but they do respect strength. Our colonies are targeting their military installations, not civilian worlds. We're showing them we could do more damage if we wished, but choose restraint. Admiral Vexthor looked at the human on his view screen. You've been planning this for centuries. The warning beacon wasn't just a test, it was part of your trap. Yes, Johnson acknowledged. Earth is the trap. Not because of some weapon or natural phenomenon, but because humanity engineered the perfect strategic deception. We used your own arrogance against you. Vexthor closed his eyes briefly. In all his years commanding Imperial forces, he had never faced a defeat like this, never encountered a species that had outthought the Empire so thoroughly. I accept your terms, he said finally. I will return to Imperial space and deliver your message. A wise decision, Admiral, Johnson replied. Safe journey home. As the transmission ended, Vexthor stared at the blue planet receding on his view screen. Such an ordinary-looking world. Who could have imagined the elaborate trap it contained? The warning had been clear. Earth is a trap. The Empire had ignored it, confident in their superiority. And it had indeed been too late. The true lesson would echo through Imperial policy for generations to come. Never underestimate a species willing to spend centuries preparing for a single moment of victory. Humanity had revealed itself not just as a formidable defender, but as the most patient predator the Empire had ever encountered. The massive alien ship appeared suddenly at the edge of Earth's solar system. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, gleaming like polished metal under the distant sun. Admiral Eliza Morgan stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the main screen. Her gray uniform was pressed perfectly, her short brown hair neatly combed. At 53, she had earned every medal pinned to her chest through 27 years of service. "Status report," she said, her voice calm despite the tension filling. "The bridge." Lieutenant Greg Winters looked up from his console. "The alien vessel is holding position near Jupiter's orbit, Admiral. They're broadcasting some kind of signal on all frequencies." Morgan nodded. "Let's hear it." A strange series of clicks and whistles filled the bridge. After a few seconds, the alien sounds transformed into heavily accented English. "Attention, primitive vessels. This is Ambassador Vex Roth of the Zalaxian Collective, representatives of the Galactic Empire. We claim this system in the name of Supreme Overlord Zex Kareth. Prepare to receive boarding parties for initial assessment." The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but not like this. "Open a channel," Morgan ordered. When Winters nodded, she spoke clearly. "This is Admiral Eliza Morgan of the United Earth Space Force. We welcome peaceful communication, but we do not accept your claim to our system. No boarding parties will be permitted on any Earth vessels or installations." There was a long pause before the alien responded. "Your resistance is unusual and pointless. The Empire spans 3 spiral arms of this galaxy. We have incorporated over 1,000 species into our collective. Your technology is primitive, your defenses inadequate. Your territory limited to a single world and a few minor outposts." Morgan's blue eyes narrowed. "Nevertheless, we decline your offer. Earth remains independent." She signaled Winters to mute the channel and turned to her second-in-command, Commander Peter Walsh. "Status of the fleet?" Walsh looked grim. "The Arizona and Constellation are 20 minutes out. The rest of the battle group is at least 2 hours away. We're badly outgunned, Admiral. Then we'll have to rely on diplomacy for now." She nodded to Winters to reopen the channel. The alien's voice had a new tone, something like confusion. "Admiral Morgan, perhaps I've been unclear. This is not a negotiation. In the history of the Empire, no species has successfully resisted incorporation. The benefits are substantial: protection, technology, trade. The alternative is unpleasant." Morgan's voice remained steady. "Ambassador Vex Roth, perhaps I've been unclear as well. Humans do not surrender their freedom. Not now. Not ever. If your empire wishes peaceful relations with Earth, we are open to discussion as equals. If you intend conquest, be warned. Humans have spent our entire history fighting each other. We've become very good at war." "Is that a threat, Admiral?" The alien's voice had shifted again, now carrying a tone of amusement. "It's a fact, Ambassador, and a warning." There was another long pause. Morgan used the time to review tactical displays. The alien ship was massive, at least 5 kilometers long, and energy readings suggested weapon systems far beyond Earth's capabilities. Finally, Vex Roth spoke again. "Very well. I will consult with the Imperial hierarchy. Perhaps special arrangements can be made for your species." The communication ended. Morgan turned to her senior staff. "They're stalling. Get me Earth Command immediately." Minutes later, she was addressing the United Earth Defense Council, a collection of grim faces on the main screen. "Madam President, distinguished counselors, we face an imminent threat. These aliens, this galactic empire, have claimed our system and will not recognize our sovereignty." President Susan Carter looked every bit as concerned as Morgan felt. "Your assessment, Admiral? Based on initial scans, their technology far exceeds our own. However, they seem genuinely surprised by our refusal to surrender. I believe they're accustomed to species that submit without resistance." General Ryan Daniels leaned forward. "You're suggesting we can use that psychological advantage?" Morgan nodded. "Yes, sir. They expect compliance. We need to show them immediately that humans don't follow their rules." "Even if it means war?" asked Defense Minister Howard. "If we submit now, we'll never be free again," Morgan replied. "I recommend immediate mobilization of all Earth defenses and evacuation of the outer colonies." We should also deploy the Sentinel satellites ahead of schedule. The council members exchanged looks. The Sentinel program isn't fully tested, General Daniel said. It's the most advanced weapon system we have, Morgan countered. And right now, we need every advantage. President Carter was silent for a moment, then nodded. Implement Admiral Morgan's recommendations immediately, and God help us all. As the meeting ended, Commander Walsh approached. Admiral, the alien vessel is launching smaller craft, hundreds of them. Morgan's expression hardened. So they've made their decision. Target defensive systems on those launches. Do not fire unless fired upon. She watched as the swarm of alien craft spread out across the solar system. Some headed toward Mars, others to the mining stations on Jupiter's moons, and a large group moved directly toward Earth. They're testing our resolve, she said quietly, and our capabilities. The first shots were fired near the Mars colony. An Earth defense platform fired on alien craft that approached too closely. The aliens responded with overwhelming force, destroying the platform in seconds. All ships, defensive positions, Morgan ordered as reports flooded in. Prepare for combat. The UES Defiant shuddered as its engines pushed it toward the approaching alien forces. Morgan stood tall on the bridge, her face showing no fear. Admiral, Walsh said quietly beside her. The odds. Never tell me the odds, Commander, she interrupted. Human history is full of battles won against impossible odds by those who refuse to give up. More reports came in. The research station, on Titan destroyed. The Europa mining facility under attack. The Mars colony surrounded. Morgan sent an encrypted message to all Earth forces. This is Admiral Morgan. We face an enemy that believes our defeat is inevitable. They have never fought humans before. Show them their mistake. As the Defiant moved to intercept the alien craft approaching Earth, Morgan gazed at the view screen showing her home planet, blue and beautiful against the blackness of space. She thought of all the wars humans had fought across the centuries, all the suffering and destruction. Perhaps this was why, to prepare humanity for this moment, when all those hard lessons would serve a greater purpose. All weapons systems ready, Admiral, reported Weapons Officer Olivia Reed. Morgan nodded. Fire when they come within range, and may our ancestors watch over us today. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. 3 weeks after first contact, General Alan Hayes stood in Earth Command's war room. The large underground chamber buzzed with activity as officers moved between stations, their faces tight with worry. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the solar system and the current positions of both human and Imperial forces. There was far too much red on the display. Hayes ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair. At 62, he had hoped to retire soon. Those plans were now on hold indefinitely. Status report, he said to the room. Colonel Natalie Patel stepped forward. She was 35, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and the sharpest mind in Earth's strategic command. It's not good, sir, she said. Mars outpost has fallen. The mining stations on Europa are destroyed. The research base on Titan is now under Imperial control. Hayes nodded grimly. And Admiral Morgan? The Defiant managed to escape the ambush at Neptune. They're regrouping with the remaining fleet at the hidden base in the asteroid belt. Hayes studied the display. The Imperial forces were advancing methodically through the solar system, securing each sector before moving to the next. Their pattern was predictable, almost mechanical. Show me the battle footage again, he said. All engagements, side by side. The display changed to show multiple videos of battles from across the system. Hayes watched carefully, his eyes narrowing. Do you see it? He asked Patel. She nodded slowly. They're using the same tactics in every engagement, the same formations, the same attack patterns. They're not adapting, Hayes said. Their technology is superior, but their battle doctrine is rigid. He turned to the communications officer. Get me a secure channel to Admiral Morgan. Minutes later, Morgan's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired, with a bandage visible on her forehead, but her eyes were still sharp and determined. General Hayes, she greeted him. I assume you've seen the reports. I have. But I've also noticed something interesting about our enemy. As Hayes explained his observations, Morgan's expression changed from grim to thoughtful. "You're right," she said. "They're fighting by the book, their book. They've conquered 1,000 worlds using the same tactics, and it's always worked before." "But they've never fought humans," Hayes replied. "Our entire history is filled with warfare and adaptation. When one tactic fails, we try another. When we're outgunned, we find different ways to fight." Morgan leaned closer to the camera. "What are you suggesting, General?" "Operation Hornet's Nest," Hayes said. "We sacrifice some outposts and fleets, positions we can't hold anyway, but we use them to analyze Imperial responses, learn their patterns, find their weak points." "Sacrificing our people won't be popular," Morgan warned. "Not sacrificing, using them strategically. Small units, hit-and-run tactics. We won't win conventional battles against their technology, so we stop fighting conventionally." The plan took shape over the next days. Earth's forces pulled back from direct confrontation, instead focusing on gathering intelligence and testing Imperial responses to different situations. Captain Benjamin Cole of the UES Thunderbolt received unusual orders. His small battlecruiser was to hide in the dense asteroid field near Jupiter and observe the Imperial supply lines. Cole was a young officer, just 38, with a reputation for creative problem-solving. "This is insane," his first officer, Lieutenant Maria Reyes, said as they reviewed the orders. "We're supposed to just watch while they move in to attack Earth?" Cole studied the tactical display. "No, we're supposed to learn, and then hit them, where it hurts." For 2 weeks, the Thunderbolt remained hidden, its systems running on minimal power to avoid detection. Cole and his crew recorded every Imperial ship movement, noting patterns in their patrol routes and communication signals. "Their supply ships follow the exact same path every time," Cole told his senior staff, "and they're only guarded on the flanks, not above or below the convoy path." Reyes still looked skeptical. "Even if we hit them, a single battlecruiser can't make a difference against their fleet." "We're not trying to win the war in one battle," Cole replied. "We're proving a point that humans don't fight the way they expect." The plan was simple but daring. The Thunderbolt would emerge from hiding above the next supply convoy, strike hard and fast, then disappear back into the asteroid field before reinforcements could arrive. On the bridge, Cole gave the order. "All hands to battle stations. Weapons. Hot. Prepare to execute maneuver Epsilon on my mark." The Thunderbolt's engines fired briefly, pushing the ship out of its hiding place. The Imperial convoy was directly below them, 8 large transport ships with 2 escort vessels on each side. "They don't even have sensors pointing up," Weapons Officer Diane Foster said with surprise. "They've never needed them," Cole replied. "Mark." The Thunderbolt dropped out of hiding, its weapons firing in a precise pattern that targeted the escort's propulsion systems. 2 Imperial ships were crippled before they could respond. The convoy scattered in confusion as the human vessel executed a series of rapid maneuvers that defied standard defensive protocols. "They're trying to form a defensive sphere," Reyes reported, watching the Imperial ship's movements. "Just as predicted." Cole nodded. "Launch disruptors, then execute withdrawal pattern Delta." Small devices shot from the Thunderbolt, detonating near the remaining Imperial escorts. They released electromagnetic pulses that played havoc with the alien ship's communication systems. As the Imperial forces struggled to coordinate, the Thunderbolt fired again, disabling 2 more vessels before turning and accelerating back toward the asteroid field. "Imperial reinforcements arriving," Foster announced. 3 minutes until they're in weapons range." "We'll be gone in 2, Cole replied with a grim smile. True to his word, the Thunderbolt vanished into the dense field of asteroids, its heat, signature masked by the surrounding rocks. The Imperial reinforcements arrived to find disabled ships and confusion. Back at Earth Command, General Hayes received Cole's report with grim satisfaction. "It worked," he told Patel. "The Imperial forces followed standard response patterns exactly as we predicted. They didn't adapt to the situation." He turned to the communications officer. "Send this message to all commands. Operation Hornet's Nest is confirmed. We've found their weakness. They don't know how to fight dirty." Around the solar system, Small human vessels began to emerge from hiding, striking at Imperial forces before disappearing again. Each attack targeted a different weakness, tested a different tactic. Some failed, but many succeeded. In the war room, Hayes added another successful engagement to the growing list of victories. "We're still outnumbered and outgunned," Patel reminded him. "These are small victories." Hayes nodded. "But they add up. More importantly, we're learning while they're not. The Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds, but they've never fought humans before." He looked at the tactical display, where small blue lights representing human forces darted between the red masses of Imperial ships. "And they're about to learn what that means." Dr. Olivia Wright worked late into the night in her laboratory aboard the hidden station Resilience. The station was built deep within Saturn's rings, the ice particles providing natural camouflage against Imperial scanners. At 45, Wright was Earth's leading expert on alien biology, with keen green eyes and prematurely white hair that she kept cut short for convenience. She leaned over the examination table, studying the body of an Imperial soldier. The alien was insectoid in appearance with a hard exoskeleton and multiple limbs. This one belonged to the warrior caste, evident from its enlarged front claws and reinforced headplate. Recording session 37, she spoke to her computer. Warrior caste neural examination. Her assistant, Dr. Paul Winters, prepared the scanning equipment. He was 20 years younger than Wright, with dark skin and a quiet, careful manner that made him excellent in laboratory work. "Scan's ready," he said. Wright nodded and activated the neural scanner. A detailed image of the alien's brain appeared on the main screen. "Just as I suspected," she said. "Look at the size of the obedience center compared to the problem-solving region, and almost no development in the creativity sectors." Winters studied the scan. "They're bred for specific functions." "Exactly. Their entire society is based on specialization. Warriors fight, workers build, commanders lead. None of them step outside their assigned roles." Wright moved to another examination table where pieces of Imperial technology were arranged for study. She picked up what appeared to be a communication device. "Their tech is incredible," she said. "Centuries ahead of ours in many ways. But it's all designed for efficiency within their rigid system. There's no redundancy, no adaptability." She turned to her computer and opened a secure channel. Admiral Morgan's face appeared on the screen, looking tired but alert. "Admiral, we've made a breakthrough in understanding the Imperial forces," Wright said. "I'm listening," Morgan replied. Wright explained her findings about the specialized nature of Imperial biology and technology. Each caste is literally bred for specific functions. Their warriors are physically formidable but lack creativity. Their commanders calculate probabilities but don't innovate. They've evolved in a hierarchy that's been stable for millennia. Morgan processed this information. So they're predictable because they're incapable of being unpredictable. Precisely. Their entire civilization is built on rigid compliance. They simply cannot comprehend the kind of adaptive, creative warfare that humans excel at. Across the solar system, Lieutenant Commander Kyle Patterson was making a discovery of his own. His small team of 6 infiltrators had managed to board an Imperial carrier using a captured shuttle. They wore modified Imperial armor taken from dead warriors, counting on the fact that most Imperial castes couldn't easily distinguish individual humans. Patterson was 35, with a lean build, and light brown hair kept regulation short. He had been a Special Forces operator before the invasion, specializing in covert operations. The team moved carefully through the massive ship, avoiding contact where possible. Their mission was simple: gather intelligence on Imperial systems and communications. In a rarely used maintenance corridor, Patterson found what he was looking for: an access point to the Imperial data network. He plugged in a device developed by Earth's best computer scientists and waited while it worked its way past the security. "This is strange," he whispered to Sergeant Leah Alvarez, his second in command. "There's barely any security at all." Alvarez frowned. "That can't be right. A civilization this advanced must have cyber defenses." "That's just it. They don't seem to have the concept of cyber warfare. Look at this." Patterson showed her the data streaming to his device. Their entire network is designed for efficiency, not security. The concept of one of their own trying to hack the system is completely foreign to them. They've never needed to protect against sabotage from within, Alvarez realized. Their society doesn't produce rebels or traitors. Patterson nodded. Which means we can access everything: navigational data, communication protocols, battle plans. They literally cannot comprehend deception among their own kind. When Patterson's team returned to Earth with the stolen data, a crucial war council was convened. Admiral Morgan, General Hayes, Dr. Wright, Lieutenant Commander Patterson, and other key leaders gathered in the underground command center. We've learned two critical things about the enemy, Morgan told the assembled officers. First, they are biologically specialized, with each caste limited to specific functions. Second, their systems have no defense against infiltration because betrayal doesn't exist in their society. How does this help us? Asked Defense Minister Howard. We're still outnumbered and outgunned. Morgan looked around the room. We can't match their firepower, but we don't have to. We'll use every dirty trick humanity has ever conceived. Guerrilla warfare, misinformation, sabotage, psychological operations. We'll make them fight a war they don't understand. Dr. Wright stepped forward. My team is developing bioweapons that target specifically the Imperial Command caste. Not lethal, we're not monsters, but compounds that will confuse their neural patterns, making it difficult for them to issue clear orders. Patterson added, and my team has developed viruses to insert into their navigation systems. We can make entire fleet sections go off course or even fire on their own ships. General Hayes nodded approvingly. Meanwhile, our conventional forces will continue hit-and-run attacks, but now with greater strategic coordination, targeting specifically the weak points Dr. Wright and Commander Patterson have identified. Admiral Morgan stood before the tactical display showing the solar system. The red Imperial forces still far outnumbered the blue human ships, but there was a new sense of purpose in the room. The Empire has spent millennia fighting conventional wars against conventional enemies, she said. They've never encountered a species that had spent its entire history fighting itself, perfecting the art of asymmetric warfare. She turned to face the Earth's military leadership. We're not just soldiers. We're the descendants of every rebel, revolutionary, and resistance fighter in human history, and we're about to teach the Empire what that means. The plan moved quickly into action. Dr. Wright's team finished their neural disruptors and loaded them onto specialized delivery drones. Patterson's hackers prepared their cyber weapons, ready to infiltrate Imperial systems. And Morgan's fleet prepared for coordinated strikes against key Imperial supply lines and command ships. As Dr. Wright prepared to leave for her next assignment, modifying the neural disruptors for maximum effect against the Imperial High Command, she found herself working alongside Patterson. Do you think this will work? She asked him quietly. Patterson considered the question carefully. The Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds by following the same playbook. They've never had to adapt because adaptation was never necessary. Until now, Wright said. Until they met humans, Patterson agreed. The most adaptable species in the galaxy. The one predator they never evolved to handle. Across the solar system, human forces prepared for the counterattack. The plan was not to win. Through superior firepower, that was impossible. The plan was to win by changing the rules of the game, by fighting in ways the Empire had never encountered and could not understand. As Admiral Morgan told her commanders before they departed for their assignments. For the first time in its history, the Empire is about to fight an enemy that welcomes chaos, that thrives in desperation, that grows stronger when cornered. She looked at the faces of Earth's defenders, determined, resourceful, and undefeated. And they have no idea what's coming for them. The Galactic Council chamber was vast and ancient. Thousands of seats rose in concentric circles around a central platform where Supreme Overlord Zex Kareth now stood. At 7 feet tall, with gleaming blue-black exoskeleton and 4 upper limbs, he had ruled the Empire for 700 years. The counselors around him represented every major race in the Empire, though all had been thoroughly assimilated into Imperial culture long ago. This emergency session of the Council is now open, Zexcareth announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. For the first time in 3 centuries, we face a situation that requires our direct attention. The Imperial strategist Kilvor moved to the center platform. Unlike the warrior caste with their heavy armor-like exoskeletons, Kilvor was slender, with an enlarged cranial cavity housing an exceptional analytical mind. Esteemed council members, Kilvor began, I must report an unprecedented situation in the Sol system. The species known as humans are employing tactics we have never encountered. Images appeared in the air above the platform, recordings of recent human attacks against Imperial forces. They attack and retreat rather than fighting to conclusion, Kilvor explained. They sacrifice their own positions to damage ours. They transmit false communications that confuse our commanders. They modify their weapons between engagements. They operate without a unified command structure, making their movements unpredictable. A low murmur of confusion spread through the council. Such behavior was outside their experience. Most disturbing of all, Kilvor continued, they have somehow infiltrated our vessels and systems, inserting false data and corrupting command protocols. 3 Imperial dreadnoughts fired on their own support ships last week, believing them to be human vessels. Supreme Overlord Zexcareth raised a limb, for silence. What is your assessment of these humans, strategist? Kilvor hesitated, unusual for his caste. They are irrational, my lord. Their tactics defy strategic logic. They accept high casualties for minimal gains. They refuse to surrender even when defeat is mathematically certain. The Overlord considered this. And yet they continue to resist. Yes, my lord. Despite our overwhelming technological superiority, they have managed to disrupt our conquest timetable significantly. Recommendation? Kilvor straightened. A demonstration of our absolute power is required. I propose deploying the Planet Killer to their system. The chamber went still. The Planet Killer was the Empire's ultimate weapon, capable of destroying an entire world. It had been used only twice in Imperial history, both times to end particularly stubborn resistance. Very well, Zexcareth decided. Deploy the Planet Killer to the Jupiter orbit. Destroy one of their outer colonies as demonstration. Then demand their immediate surrender. The massive Planet Killer vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. Nearly 20 kilometers long, it resembled a giant mechanical insect with a glowing red orb at its center. Without warning, it fired on Jupiter's moon, Callisto. A beam of intense energy struck the moon's surface. Within minutes, Callisto broke, apart, fragments scattering through space. The message was clear: surrender or Earth would be next. On Earth, news of Callisto's destruction spread quickly. Instead of causing panic, it had an unexpected effect. Nations that had been historical enemies set aside their differences. Resources were pooled. Every factory converted to war production. Children learned to operate communication systems while the elderly designed traps and fortifications. In Earth Command, Admiral Morgan met with Captain Samantha Rodriguez. At 40, Rodriguez had been a respected but unremarkable officer before the invasion. Now she commanded the small but growing stealth fleet, ships modified with technology reverse-engineered from damaged Imperial vessels. The Overlord's ultimatum gives us 72 hours to surrender, Morgan told her. That's when we strike. Rodriguez studied the plan on the screen between them. This looks like a suicide mission, Admiral. It appears that way by design, Morgan agreed. Your fleet will attack the Planet Killer head-on. With only 15 ships against that monster? The attack is a diversion. While they focus on your way, Fleet Patterson's team will board the Planet Killer using modified Imperial shuttles. Rodriguez nodded slowly, understanding. They'll think we're desperate, throwing everything at them in a last stand. Exactly. Imperial tactics say they should pursue and eliminate all opposing forces. Their psychology can't grasp the concept of a sacrificial diversion. When the plan was set in motion, Rodriguez led her small fleet out from hiding behind Earth's moon. Her flagship, the UES Intrepid, was at the front of the formation. All ships attack Pattern Omega, she ordered. Remember the plan. Make it look good, but stay alive as long as possible. The human fleet approached the planet killer, which was now positioned halfway between Jupiter and Earth. As expected, the Imperial vessel launched waves of fighter craft to intercept the humans. The battle was one-sided from the start. Imperial weapons tore through the human ships despite their advanced shields. But the human vessels fought with desperate creativity, changing tactics constantly, executing maneuvers that Imperial tracking systems classified as irrational. Rodriguez watched as 3 of her ships were destroyed in the first minutes. "Continue evasive patterns," she ordered. "Make them work for every hit." As the Imperial fighters pursued the human ships, they failed to notice 12 small objects moving silently toward the planet killer. Patterson's team, using captured Imperial shuttles and modified with stealth technology developed by Dr. Wright, approached the massive vessel from multiple angles. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Rodriguez received a coded signal. "Phase 1 complete," she told her crew. "Begin withdrawal." Her remaining ships turned and fled, appearing to retreat in disarray. As predicted, the Imperial fighters pursued, eager to eliminate the human threat entirely. What the Imperial commanders didn't realize was that the retreating human ships were dropping specially designed quantum mines disguised as debris. When the Imperial fighters pursued, the mines detonated, creating localized distortions in space. 3 Imperial capital ships were caught in the blasts, their systems crippled. Back on Earth, civilian engineer Frank Miller worked frantically in his lab. At 58, with thinning hair and thick glasses, he had been developing shield technology for shipping companies before the war. Now he was Earth's leading expert on defensive systems. "Try it again," he told his assistant, Lisa Chen. Chen activated the shield generator. A blue field of energy formed around the test object, a piece of Imperial hull material recovered from a crashed ship. Miller fired a captured Imperial weapon at the shield. The energy blast hit the shield, causing it to flicker wildly but not collapse. "We did it," Chen said, eyes wide. "It held." "For 2.3 seconds, Miller corrected her. "But that's 2.3 seconds longer than before. And in combat, that could be the difference between life and death." Miller's breakthrough was immediately transmitted to all human vessels. The new shield modulation could briefly withstand the Empire's primary weapons, giving human ships precious seconds to maneuver or counterattack. Aboard the planet killer, Patterson's team had successfully infiltrated the massive vessel. They moved through the maintenance tunnels, avoiding contact with the ship's crew. "Central. Control should be 3 levels up," Patterson told his team, checking the schematics they'd extracted from the Imperial network. As they approached the control center, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. "They've detected us," Sergeant Alvarez said. Patterson shook his head. "Not us. Look." He pointed to a nearby view screen showing space outside the vessel. A second human fleet had arrived, ships from the Mars resistance that had been in hiding since the colony fell. "They're creating another diversion," Patterson realized. "Let's not waste it." His team fought their way to the control center, facing surprisingly little resistance. Most of the Imperial forces had been deployed to deal with the external threats. Inside the control center, they quickly placed the devices Dr. Wright had designed, specialized disruptors that would interfere with the planet killer's main weapon. "Charges set," Alvarez reported. 15 minutes until they activate. "Then let's get out of here," Patterson ordered. Across the solar system, the Imperial losses were mounting. For the first time in its history, the Empire was fighting an enemy that adapted faster than their tactical algorithms could predict. That seemed to grow stronger when cornered. On his flagship near Saturn, Imperial Commander Vexen Noth watched in disbelief as reports of failures and setbacks continued to arrive. "This is impossible," he said to his second-in-command. "They are primitive. They should have surrendered after the Callisto demonstration." At that moment, the planet killer's main weapon attempted to fire on Earth. The disruptors planted by Patterson's team activated, causing a cascade failure in the weapon systems. Secondary explosions rippled through the massive ship. Not enough to destroy it, but certainly enough to cripple it temporarily. On the Galactic Council, Supreme Overlord Zexkarath received the news with cold anger. He turned to Imperial strategist. Kilvor, how is this possible? He demanded. Kilvor had no answer that fit within Imperial understanding. These humans defied all strategic logic. They should have been easy to conquer, like the 1,000 species before them. The Overlord made a fateful decision. Dippy? The Imperial Armada filled the darkness of space like a swarm of metal insects. 50,000 warships strong, they assembled at the edge of the Sol system. Never before had the Empire deployed such overwhelming force against a single enemy. Admiral Eliza Morgan stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned UES Vengeance, Earth's most advanced warship. Even with its reverse-engineered Imperial technology, the Vengeance was still hopelessly outmatched by any single Imperial dreadnought. Beside her stood General Hayes, his face grim. They've committed their entire fleet. Morgan nodded. Just as we hoped. Earth's plan had been months in preparation. Dr. Wright's team had seeded the outer system with microscopic replicators, tiny machines that now attach themselves to Imperial hull plating, waiting for activation. Lieutenant Commander Patterson's hackers had infiltrated the Imperial communication network through the back doors they'd discovered. General Hayes had positioned his forces not to win. Victory in a conventional sense was impossible, but to create maximum confusion. Morgan opened a channel to all human vessels. All ships, this is Admiral Morgan. The enemy approaches with overwhelming force. They believe their superior numbers and technology guarantee victory. She paused, her blue eyes taking in the impossible odds displayed on the tactical screen. They're wrong. Execute Operation Thunderbolt. The human fleet began to move, breaking into dozens of small groups that scattered throughout the solar system, apparently retreating in disarray. The Imperial Armada, seeing what appeared to be a panicked response, divided to pursue, exactly as human strategists had predicted. Morgan opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Commence Phase 2. In laboratories and command centers across Earth and its remaining outposts, teams of scientists and computer specialists activated their systems. The microscopic replicators attached to Imperial hulls came to life, burrowing into the metal and seeking out critical systems. Not designed to destroy but to confuse, rewiring navigation controls, disrupting sensor arrays, altering weapons targeting. At the same time, Patterson's team flooded the Imperial communication network with carefully crafted misinformation. False orders sent Imperial squadrons onto collision courses with each other. Fake distress calls pulled ships away from their assigned positions. Tactical displays showed enemy vessels where there were none. Morgan turned to her communications. Officer. Send our message to the Imperial Command. Throughout the Armada, Imperial commanders received the same transmission. We warned you to run. You should have listened. The battle began in earnest. Human vessels executed maneuvers deemed irrational by Imperial tacticians, achieving surprise where none should have been possible. Ships appeared to sacrifice themselves, only to be revealed as remote-controlled decoys packed with explosive devices. Others used the new shield modulation developed by Frank Miller to briefly withstand Imperial weapons, giving them precious seconds to strike back at vulnerable points identified by Dr. Wright's research. On his command ship, Overlord Zexkarath watched in disbelief as his invincible armada began to disintegrate into chaos. How? He demanded of his advisors. How can they defeat our superior technology in numbers? The answer came from an unexpected source, his xenoanthropologist, a member of the scientific caste who had been studying human history. My lord, these humans have spent their entire existence fighting themselves. Every tactic we consider dishonorable, they consider necessary. Every strategy we deem illogical, they have refined through millennia of bloodshed. The xenoanthropologist activated a display showing the history of human warfare, from ancient battles with primitive weapons to their modern conflicts. They have never known peace. Their entire civilization has evolved through constant war. Where we fight to expand an empire, they fight to survive. They have developed a psychological and tactical flexibility that our specialized castes cannot match. As the Imperial Armada descended further into disorder, Morgan directed the final phase of the human counterattack. Small, fast attack craft targeted the ships carrying Imperial commanders, using the disruption caused by the replicators to slip past their defenses. Not to destroy them, but to broadcast Dr. Wright's neural disruptors directly into their command centers. The effect was immediate. Across the Armada, Imperial commanders found themselves unable to formulate clear orders or make tactical decisions. Without firm direction, the rigid Imperial hierarchy broke down. Ships waited for orders that never came, or followed outdated protocols that led them into human traps. 3 hours into the battle, the first Imperial ships began to retreat. Not an organized withdrawal, but individual captains fleeing the incomprehensible chaos. Others soon followed. Within 6 hours, the mighty Armada had been reduced to scattered groups of vessels trying to escape the solar system. On his command ship, Overlord Zex Karath was forced to a humiliating decision. "Order a full retreat," he commanded. "All forces to withdraw from the human system immediately." The xenoanthropologist spoke quietly. "My lord, we should consider negotiation. These humans have demonstrated—" "Silence!" the Overlord roared. "The Empire does not negotiate with primitives." But even as he spoke, he knew that something unprecedented had occurred. For the first time in its long history, the Empire had met a species it could not conquer. As the Imperial forces retreated from the Sol system, Admiral Morgan addressed the battered but victorious human fleet. "Today, we have shown the galaxy something new, that freedom can defeat tyranny, that innovation can overcome tradition, that humanity will never surrender." In the following months, the Empire withdrew completely from Earth space. The war was not officially over. The Empire never formally admitted defeat, but a buffer zone was established around the solar system. Imperial ships no longer ventured near Earth or its colonies. Years later, when diplomatic channels were finally established between humans and the Empire, negotiations were conducted with humans as equals, not subjects. The Empire had been forced to create an entirely new diplomatic protocol, one for species that would not be conquered. On the 10th anniversary of the victory, Admiral Morgan, now Earth's ambassador to galactic affairs, was asked by a young journalist why humanity had prevailed against such impossible odds. Morgan's answer was simple and became legendary throughout human space. The Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, but they had never fought humans. We warned them to run, but they had to learn the hard way. As humanity began to explore beyond their solar system, they carried this reputation with them. Other species, hearing of the Empire's defeat, approached humans with caution and respect. The galaxy had changed forever. A new power had emerged, not one built on conquest or subjugation, but on the unbreakable human spirit that refused to surrender even when faced with impossible odds. The story of Earth's victory spread throughout the galaxy, growing with each retelling, how a single planet of primitives had defeated the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known, how a species that had spent its history fighting itself had used that violent past to secure its future among the stars. And always, the story ended with the warning that humans had given, the warning the Empire had ignored to its great cost. We warned them to run. In time, humanity established its own interstellar community, built not on imperial principles of conquest and subjugation, but on cooperation and mutual respect. When they encountered other developing species, humans remembered their own history and offered friendship rather than dominance. The Empire continued to exist, still powerful but forever changed by its encounter with humanity. Its rigid hierarchies slowly adapted, incorporating some of the flexibility and innovation that had defeated them. They never again attempted to conquer Earth or its colonies. And so the legend grew, passed from world to world, species to species. Beware the humans. They look primitive. Their ships seem crude. Their weapons appear ineffective. But they are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, because the Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, but they had never fought humans.